crazy, bro. I had no idea his wife was opening up.
She's 28.
Is 28.
And hot.
Yeah, 28. Yes, she's very attractive. Good for Dan Hardy. Definitely good for Dan Hardy. Nice eyes on this girl. Wow. All right.
All right. Well, good for Dan Hardy.
Yeah, hopefully they're both open at the end of Saturday night. He gets to look his wife in the eyes and celebrate a W, I guess. I'm not pulling for her, but what do you want to do? Run back through what we had last week?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right, cool. I mean, I remember my picks. Unfortunately, there were a couple on there.
Wait, no, I have an intro for this. Hold on.
Okay. Best picks. So yeah, we got old picks last week. How do we do? All right, you want to kick it off for us, Tom?
Yep, I'll take it. So going Ismail Bonfim over Vince Michelle, going Rufi over Malarkey, and still about close. I don't have a prediction there, but I think it's going to be a good fight. Moving up to, I guess, the second part, moving up to the early verdicts and regular prelims, I'm going Bali over Elvis Brenner. We didn't talk about Yasmin Lucindo and Carolina Kowalkiewicz. That's a good fight. I think I'm going to go Lucindo here. Jack Shore over Joanna Brito and Kyle Riley over Paul Craig. I'm doing Michelle Ferreira over Igor Pateria, Trino over Smith, Aldo to get the win over Martinez, and Pantoja to get it done and defend over Ursek. Over to you, Keith.
All right, so on the
I think I ended up going 8-2.
Yeah, Jack Shore
and Anthony Smith.
And Anthony Smith, yeah. I pretty much had the same picks last week. Prelims, I got Ismail Bonfim over Vince Pichel. I'm going to go with Jamie Malarkey over Mauricio Rufi. But I do think, maybe Rufi gets it done. And then also going with an underdog Elvis Brenner over Mick Tickbeck.
To be fair, you did make this pick before we saw Elvis Brenner basically dead the night before at his weight cut.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't look too great. There was a lot of stuff about Elvis Brenner going into that fight that happened like the day or two before. Yeah. Or by. I'm going to have to go back and watch some of his old fights again and just see how that's pronounced. And then I'm going with Jack Shore over Joe Anderson Brito. Main card, I got Kyle Barallo over Paul Craig. I got Michel Pereira over Ihor Poteria, Vitor Petrino over Anthony Smith, Jose Aldo over Jordan Martinez, and Alexandre Pantoja over Steve Urseg. I think that actually those first three on the main card.
You were hard on Urseg too.
I was, bro. See, I hate to be that guy, but I get a gut feeling sometimes about some of these fighters. And there was something about Urseg. Really, if you look back at that fight, since we are talking about last week's fights a little bit, 301, in case you didn't know by now, that's what we're talking about. So, yeah, UFC 301. Steve Urseg in the main event looked sick, bro. I think there's a strong case to be made that he actually could have won rounds 2 through 4. But I understand the argument for not. Maybe if you score, I like damage personally. So, I see that blood. I see some of those combos that Urseg threw in the second round, like that elbow to hook. That was wild. But yeah, I mean, Steve Urseg, he went out there and he impressed a lot of people. The guy is now going to be a name known amongst all the fans. I'm glad he went out there and did what he did because it's not a performance that he could really take much away from outside of that 5th round where, he started shooting takedowns because his corner was telling him that he was down 3 or 4 rounds to none. But he had a performance that he could definitely be proud about. I think a lot of people are going to be hyping up Urseg for years to come. He's still a young guy, 28. He'll be back in the title picture very, very quickly. Maybe 1 or 2 fights. We've seen what he could do. I want to see a fight with him between a Manel Cape or a Kai Kara France type of guy because I feel like the stand-up exchanges would be so beautiful. What do you think? Who do you think should be next for Urseg? Because I saw some people saying an immediate rematch. But I don't know. What do you think?
People tend to be so uncreative when it comes to next matchups. I was trying to find, I thought Tapology might have, and if you know how to do this, let me know in the comments. But I was just trying to look up, I guess it would be the rankings right here. I want the UFC. I want the UFC rankings.
Yeah, you gotta find those on the UFC site, I think, because Tapology is all promotions ranked across everybody, and then it's fan rankings as well. I get what you're saying. You want the official UFC media.
Well, I mean, just something to go off of. I don't have the memory to be able to rattle these guys off by top of my name.
I feel real quick. I feel Tuesday nights is when they usually come out with the updated ranking. So I would expect to see Steve Urseg take that number 1 spot from Brandon Royval. He had a way better fight against Pantoja than Royval did. I think at least. You know, Royal kind of got dominated a little bit. Yeah, I mean, maybe you have the two of them fight next against each other.
I mean, you also had Moreno just won. He's up here. Pantoja, it depends on when he wants to fight. He's going to take some time off. So, I mean, you could theoretically match them up, but they fought already, right?
And Urseg, Moreno and Urseg, no, but Moreno and Pantoja did.
Yes, right?
Yeah, for the vacant belt.
Yeah, so, I mean, since Pantoja already has the belt, and Moreno lost that bout with him, I think maybe you could do Moreno and Urseg for a title elimination bout here.
It's crazy. That's what Urseg was calling for before he got the title shot, too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but yeah. I think the fight against Moreno makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. I wish the site was better. If there's a better site to review this on, definitely that's another thing that if you're watching, definitely drop in the comments. Let us know. I would really love something that had the rankings, and then you could see who's already has a matchup when that matchup is scheduled. And even rankings or something. So a way to combine like this with Tapology, that would be freaking awesome for analyzing matchups and stuff in the future. I'm sure there's a site like that. I just don't know of it at this point, but. Regardless,
if you click on their name, it probably says if they have a booked matchup. I know it usually says their history. Yeah, so that's
what I was looking.
Yeah. So Bobby's another guy that's just floating around there too.
See, and then there's this here, but I don't remember what happened with that fight.
Yeah, this should be a lesson to somebody.
Oh, right, this is.
To fix their website.
Yeah, the UFC's website is not great, but
we
but either way, let's roll the intro finally.
Yes, sir. You heard the man. It's time. We are back for another episode of Pickin' Fights. What's kicking? This is Keith, joined as always by my amigo Tom. Tom, you're doing well, I assume, right? We've been here shooting the shit for a couple minutes already.
Yeah, going on 8 minutes. Yeah, I'm doing well. UFC St. Louis coming up this weekend. We were talking about it before. Going to get into it now a little bit more, but sneaky good card here. I'm really excited to talk about it. Let me get it on the screen. There you go. Return to Derrick Lewis. I feel like he's been one of the most streaky fighters that we've seen, and I root heavily for that guy. So he's got a matchup here that I think is one of his more winnable ones as of late.
Yeah, I agree. And the other thing, too, I like about this card, outside of the fact that there are some really sneaky good matchups on here, but, the UFC puts out their poster for every fight or every card. I feel like this is the first time in a while that they've gone with, a traditional, that reminds me of, a Muhammad Ali boxing poster, which I love, because this is two heavyweights going at it. Somebody's going to go to sleep. I like the design and a lot of stuff surrounding this card. I like when they do these local fight nights and, a smaller venue for a less big market crowd. We see them go to San Diego and St. Louis and Nashville and it's another fun one. There's going to be a crowd for a fight night, so this is a fun card. And just wait till we get into these matchups because there's some good ones on here. You want to kick it off the prelim notables?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, numero uno prelim notable for me. I mean, we did talk a little bit about Veronica Hardy and JJ Aldrich before, but I do want to talk about Jake Hadley versus Charles Johnson. I like Jake Hadley quite a bit. The kid can do it all. He's not super well known in the States just yet, but from what I understand, he is becoming a more prominent MMA figure in the UK. Came up in the regional scenes, and at this point has a good chunk of UFC fights under his belt. 4 with a Contender Series fight up to this point. He's 2-2 over those 4 fights. But first loss to Alan Nascimento, and we've seen what that guy could do. He's come up from shoot the box, good Brazilian guy. And that was his first fight in the UFC. A little bit of a big test going up against one of those Brazilians. And then his last time around lost to Cody Durden in a unanimous decision. Cody Durden kind of flexed those wrestling muscles a little bit. And but anyways, I do like Jake Hadley. Young guy, 27 years old. He's not particularly big. He is 5'7", so he's slightly undersized, especially against Charles, who's coming in at 5'9". Same reach. But yeah, really what I like is just Jake Hadley's intelligence in there. Like I said, he can do it all, but he also has the mental capacity to unload that onto his opponent and really implement every aspect of his game plan when he's on. Yeah, we saw that great knockout over Malcolm Gordon about a year ago, and that was great. Yeah, Jake Hadley's an aggressive guy, but not too aggressive. Very sure of himself. You can see a level of confidence when he's fighting. You kind of see like the gears turn, but not too much. And then you see him implement something, and he's very intelligent. Shoot a double leg for the first 2 rounds of the fight, and then all of a sudden he's faking the double leg and coming up with the overhand. Like very just cerebral, classic MMA style stuff. Really good up against the cage, really good clinch game. And yeah, his intelligence is, I hope he doesn't prove me wrong and do something stupid like a Michael Chandler game plan and just start winging, but he's not that guy. I mean, you just look at him in his picture. He's not a diminutive guy, but he's not a very large person. He's not a ball of muscle. He knows what he has to do. Like, he doesn't have one shot power necessarily. So, if he has to go in there and box you up for a couple rounds, he can do that. Or if he has to climb on your back and make you uncomfortable, maybe choke you out, he can do that there too. So yeah, I like Jake Hadley to get it done this week. What do you think?
Yeah, I think Jake Hadley is a guy who kind of takes what the opponent gives him. He is not going to get outside of himself, but like you said, generally a pretty cerebral fighter. Kind of a little bit more traditional too, especially going to be compared to Charles Johnson. He's a little bit more. You could see even here, got 3 gyms on there: Muay Thai, Jiu-Jitsu, Murcielago, MMA. He's not necessarily all over the place, but he's definitely far from what you would call a traditional or a typical fighter. He's got a very interesting style, and I think because Hadley is who he is, I think we've also seen him rebound off of his losses really well, at least the first loss. So I think, he may have this little bit of, I don't want to call it complacency, but, the desire may not be as burning when, he's got a couple wins off, under his belt. You see, in 2021, he got into the UFC, first fight out, took a decision loss against Alan Nascimento, close fight, gets a finish win, and then a tough decision against Cody Durden. I think coming back, he's going to have definitely a heightened sense of urgency going out there looking to get this one done. I think Charles Johnson is not a guy that I would expect to finish Jake Hadley. Like you said, cerebral, pretty defensive, not going to get outside himself. He'll take what Charles Johnson gives him, and I expect him to maybe not necessarily find a finish here, but I could definitely see him just thoroughly winning the fight. On the feet, Charles Johnson trying to wing some spinning kicks, trying to catch him off guard, and it's just not going to work. And I think Hadley is just going to systematically over the fight, kind of take over, whether it's up against the cage or standing or getting a ground position and just holding control. While Charles Johnson kind of wings stuff up to maybe throw up some half-hearted, maybe triangle attempt or something like that. So I'm going Jake Hadley to get this one done, just like you.
Slight favorite, -170. Which one do you got for us next?
Up next, I want to talk a little bit about Tecia Torres and Tabitha Ricci. Only because Tabitha Ricci is a slight favorite, I see an opportunity here to bet on Tecia Torres. Tecia Torres is actually, I think, Tisha Pennington now. Her and Rocky Pennington got married, and she took her name. I'm 90% sure I'm correct on that. I hope I'm not, getting anything like that wrong. But Tecia Torres, I think, is somebody that we know to have a pretty solid gas tank, pretty high volume, obviously pretty strong in there, and has a really strong grappling base. Not the most technical when it comes to boxing, but she'll definitely throw a lot of combinations. They won't always land, and they'll probably be, potentially significantly far away from her target. But Tabitha Ricci is not the most well-adept striker that exists, and I think her takedowns are average to maybe slightly above average. She wins a lot of fights on just, control time. You're seeing a lot of decision. She got a submission over Jessica Penne, lost split decision to Lupina Godinez, someone who was able to spend a little bit of time, up against the cage, but when they were at range is when Tabitha Ricci really started to get beaten up a little bit. And I think Tisha Torres has the striking to win any exchanges on the feet. And I also think Tisha Torres is strong enough and a good enough grappler to at least kind of stalemate anything that goes up against the fence. So I think her combination of game on the feet and kind of just overall blandness of grappling throughout the entire fight is going to win it for Tisha Torres.
Yeah, I am right there with you. You're right about Raquel Pennington and Tisha Torres too. That's interesting. I was like, oh, why do I remember this happening? And that's because it was like kind of a moment after Raquel won the belt not too long ago that Tisha was like, I don't know, basically trying to get the camera on herself a little bit and like on the baby, and it was like a big deal that the two of them were in there. But yeah, I mean, it's a big moment. If you win a belt, you want your family in there to celebrate. But I just remember it was a little bit like make the moment about the baby kind of a thing. And it's like, dude, Amanda Nunes had her baby in there with her all the time, and it was not this is the baby show. This is the Amanda Nunes show. Get it together, Tabitha. I'm sorry, Tisha Torres. Come on, Tisha Pennington. Get it together. Nobody cares about your baby. Anyways, I got one I want to talk about, but I think you have one that's sandwiched in between that one and the one I want to talk about. So why don't you kick us off with that?
Yeah. Terrence McKinney, T-Rex back at it, taking on Esteban Ribovic, El Gringo. It's interesting. We both thought the same thing when looking at Terrence McKinney. We were like, oh, shit, he's on a 2-fight win streak here. These 2 fights kind of float under the radar. I'm sure we probably even talked about him at some point because, I'm sure we had to. If we talk about basically every single fight, and if we saw T-Rex, we probably wouldn't have glossed over it. 2 knockouts. About 2 months apart in after a 6-month layoff here. He's plus 160. He's the underdog, but I'm actually going to take him here up against Ribovic. And then people at Tapology agree. We were talking about it. I think both of these guys are going to stand and exchange. When I look at some of the Ribovic competition, 17-6, 6-5. He has some knockouts, mostly on the regional scene. Getting in off the Contender Series almost 2 years ago off a knockout. Immediately loses. Immediately, I say that. 6 months later, gets in first UFC fight, loses a decision to Lok Ruziboev. Comes back a couple months later, a win over Canwell Kirk, who I don't believe is in the UFC anymore. If he is, he's on his way out. So it's a win, right? I think you have a guy like Terrence McKinney who's consistently beating lower level UFC competition. I think Terrence McKinney would probably beat Canwell Kirk, and for that reason, I think it actually should be slated to him. He's an underdog at plus 160. I hope there's nothing that like it came out that we're missing, but I don't think there is. I think they're just looking at, Esteban Ribovic having a knockout in his past here and, being a little bit younger, and Terrence McKinney having these 2 very well notable losses, submission to Nazim Sajikov and obviously the flying knee knockout by Ismail Bonfim. That happened in prime time, so I think he may be suffering just a little bit of bias because of that. Other than that, I'm not necessarily seeing something that's going to make me think that that Terrence McKinney's not going to be able to knock out Esteban Ribovic here.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, yeah, Ribovic has a little bit better of a ground game. Terrence McKinney not really known for that, but like you made mention of the fact that like his last 2 wins kind of went under the radar. I remember them just not particularly well because he fought Mike Breeden and and it's just not like, yeah, you're going to tune in. Here's what I think the ultimate culmination of the Terrence McKinney-like guy is going to be. We just saw the blueprint for it because he retired like yesterday or the day before, but like a Matt Brown type of guy where you see him on the card, it's going to be a good fight. They can use him, whether it be on the prelims or the main card of a fight night, of a pay-per-view. He's going to bring the action no matter what. As long as his opponent is a willing dance partner, you're going to see fireworks with Terrence McKinney in there. So I feel like that's kind of like, you made mention of it, kind of like an under the radar, maybe potential W. Either way, going to be a banger, going to be, something that they could brag about. Like, hey, look at this prelim fight on a fight night that was bananas, and it's a big bragging point for Terrence McKinney and for the promotion to have him in a spot like this. But yeah, I'm right there with you. I think he's going to get the W. I think the underdog money is crazy. I think if anything significant would have came out, then we would have had to have heard of it, or the fight probably would have been canceled. They really just let some of that last minute shit go by. So bet responsibly. But I mean, if you're like me and you see a guy like Terrence McKinney at plus 180, you start to salivate a little bit. So I'm going with Terrence McKinney here. And the people at Tapology as well, like you mentioned, it's like 70% on Terrence McKinney, majority of those coming in by knockout. So, yeah, I think if Ruziboev is a willing and able dance partner, that the two of them will tangle for a little bit, and ultimately McKinney will put his lights out. So,
what's funny is McKinney has a higher win by submission rate than Ruziboev does.
That's crazy. I mean, I wonder if that's because I don't know. I mean, yeah, that's nuts, man. That is nuts.
I mean, hey, he does have 7 first-round submissions, 8 overall.
That's crazy, bro. Good stat line for Terrence McKinney. Yeah, so we're both throwing T-Rex. And then I got in this last one, I haven't even looked at the lines, but yeah, you already got it up on the screen. These are two of our favorites over here. I am, I'm a particular fan of Vyacheslav Borshev. Believe there was a little bit of controversy around his last fight. What was that again? Was that a nut poke or an eye bash or something? Against
Nascimento again.
Yeah, that guy. That fucking guy. Yeah, see, this is a tough one because Vyacheslav has a massive striking advantage and Chase Hooper has a massive wrestling advantage, and both guys kind of suck in the other realm. So what I'm thinking is that you see a fight where Chase Hooper is like threatening with the grappling a little bit, giving Vyacheslav some things to think about. Vyacheslav trains at Team Alpha Male. He's very close with Uriah Faber. The two of them drill wrestling quite a bit. And see, like I said, that Vyashlav's wrestling isn't up to snuff with Chase Hooper. But like, let's keep in mind too that Vyacheslav hasn't really been tested in the UFC when it comes to his wrestling. I mean, he has, but not to that extent where you go, oh, this is dangerous. Get this guy out of here. But yeah, I don't know. I think he's going to put the pause on Chase Hooper this week. He's got to get, a couple of W's in a row to really to justify being here, moving over from kickboxing. That's part of the reason why his ground game is up to snuff with Chase Hooper. Long story short, I think Vyacheslav, a lot of people are actually counting him out, even though the odds are on his side and the Tapology voting is on his side. I just think that this is a guy with like a really high ceiling, serious knockout power. A lot of precision is in his hands. We've seen him, one-shot guys to the body, knock guys out. Previous to the UFC with one-shots, straight to the jaw with the heavier gloves on. So I think Vyacheslav has a lot of potential, and I think it would be a good opportunity to show against Chase Hooper. Like, stuff a couple of those takedowns, make Chase Hooper rethink his whole game plan about wanting to go in there and wrestle you, and then you put the pause on him. And once a guy like Vyacheslav touches Chase a couple of times, Chase hasn't really been like put out like that just yet, right? If I can recall, but unless I'm wrong.
Yeah,
against Steve
by Steve Garcia.
Yeah, but I just think like you're gonna see Vyacheslav touch him up a little bit and hurt him, and throw those patented body strikes he throws, basically poking you in the liver. He's gonna do that a couple times, and Chase Hooper's gonna realize he doesn't want to be there and mentally quit. And then it's a matter of time until Vyacheslav really puts him out. What do you think, Tom? Am I a little too extreme in my prediction that Vyacheslav is going to knock him out, you think? Or
So I think if they were to fight 10 times, Vyacheslav probably knocks him out or wins by decision 6 or 7 times. I think Chase Hooper is able to get him to the ground and find a submission 2 or 3 of those times. So I think the smart bet is probably Vyacheslav Borshev, Slavakovas by finish. But the thing is in the wild card here, the X factor is the fact that Chase Hooper is only 24 years old and he's, been improving. He's moved up now to lightweight. He's got a little bit more bulk on him and, he's looked better at lightweight. Submitting Jordan Levitt is no, small feat. And I think his ability to, improve on the feet, at least in an instance to supplement his grappling and have just enough stand up to be able to work to the inside and eventually get a takedown or even if he just focuses on cutting off the cage. I know he trains a lot with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson, and being 22, 23, 24 years old, training with a stand-up striking phenom like that, legend, I think it's definitely going to help you. And you know what? At plus 150, it's the card of the underdogs. I'm going to put a little bit of money on Chase Hooper to get it done because, you know, you're training with Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. You're young. You're going to have the length here, you know. So, you know, I know Borisov is obviously the far better kickboxer and can make up distance, but the little bit of length for Chase Hooper does not hurt him, I don't think. And, you know, if he can use that and to combine with a little bit of takedown, you know, once he gets it to the ground, he's got a really, really good. We saw it against Nick Fiore. And I think we also saw it against, well, he doesn't win over Felipe Colares by ground and pound, but I forget who it was against that we saw him just kind of, I almost wanted to nickname him the Squid because of the way that he just kind of slithered and moved around his opponent at the time. So I'm going to go with Chase Hooper. Screw it.
Yeah, good pick. Good pick. I still disagree. But yeah, you're right. The move up to lightweight was good for him. It has been good for him so far. And looks better, looks, you know, not as like leaned out and decimated. And training with Wonderboy Thompson probably will help him with a guy like Vyacheslav. Wonderboy is very good at like breaking down film, mimicking his opponent's stop, you know, doing like a scout team for football, like mimicking, giving him a look. So, yeah, you're right. There's a chance. You know, there's definitely a chance that Chase Hooper pulls this one out. I mean, yeah, he looks nowhere near as emaciated at 155 as he did at 145.
I mean, yeah, this is just not somebody as a ground guy. You're gonna get you're not letting this guy throw you around. He just doesn't have the weight to him.
No, yeah, you'd have to have like an immense guard game to be that size fighting at one. Like Brian Ortega is like pretty lean too. He's not that lean, but you know.
But, I mean, this is a far better build than.
Oh, for sure, he has muscle on him now.
Yeah.
Maybe there will be a little pop in his shots now. He is getting older. You get stronger as you get older, like when it comes to the power behind your hands. So, but imagine a practice in Wonderboy's gym between him and Chase Hooper and, you know, probably a couple other really, really nice guys. Sorry. Oh, sorry. I just made him sound Canadian. I don't know why, but.
A little sorry there, friend.
Oh, sorry. Well, they say sorry. They say sorry a lot in Canada. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah. But,
all right.
Yeah,
well, with that,
there's a chance.
Main card?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Bellis, Despaigne. You want to kick this one over? You want to do it? What do you got?
I'm Waldo Cortes-Acosta, Salsa Boy, hereby known to and referred as WCA. And WCA is the lamb to slaughter here against Robelis Despaigne. I mean, at the end of the day, he's a boxing heavy guy, doesn't go out there and knock people out, stands pretty heavy on his front leg. And Robelis Despaigne, a 6'7", 87-inch reach, and a really long-legged kickboxer, is just going to tear at that leg. I mean, you have a kickboxer versus a boxer. I don't expect Waldo Cortes-Acosta to magically discover how to block leg kicks and check them, or magically get, you know, this in and out, side to side head movement thing. He kind of goes in there and does the typical heavyweight shuffle. Step, 1, 2. Step, body shot. Like, it's just step, plod. Oh, something's coming back.
Yeah.
Step, deep breath. Shake the arms out. Step, one shot. Like, and I think for a guy like Robelis Despaigne, 35 years old, coming into the UFC, 5 fights into his MMA career, already has knockouts over Josh Parisian. I think he's going in there and he's looking to put on a show. And Waldo Cortes-Acosta is going to be the guy who's going to be the lamb to slaughter as he kicks it off. So knock one up for the big boy.
Fair enough. I'm going with Robelis Despaigne here as well. I just don't want anybody to get it. Like, I know we're not, but Robelis had a crazy fight the last time around against Josh Parisian. Not meaning like, oh, it was a banger back and forth. Here's a 6'7" monster of a man running at you, essentially. Josh Parisian, figure out what you're going to do. You're in a cage, by the way. And Josh Parisian couldn't figure it out. Like, it was just a very quick, you know, just like a speed run UFC debut for Robelis Despaigne. I don't think it's going to be that devastating for Waldo Cortes-Acosta, like early and as brutal as it was. Yeah, so you just have a 6'7" man just backing you down, hands down, not afraid of you whatsoever, picking his shots. Okay, yeah, that doesn't look great, but now did it freeze on your end? Oh, yeah, exactly. Josh Parisian tries to take advantage of that slip, and there goes Robellis off the back foot. Bang, bang, bang.
I will say Cortes-Acosta is going to have a lot more resolve than Josh Parisian shows here.
Well, yeah, I mean,
and his boxing front is definitely going to, if Despaigne walks up to him like this with his hands down, he's going to get some punches back. I have to imagine that for a kickboxer, he's going to know how to handle that. But
yeah, I think Robellis is probably going to show Waldo Cortes-Acosta a little bit more respect. Waldo is 11-1, 40-foot hands and everything, but you might want to shut that off so you don't get copyright strike. But not that it matters, honestly. But you know, it's just, I think, yeah, you're going to see Waldo be a little bit more composed. Like, if there's a moment like that, he's just not going to start running forward at Robellis, not even throwing punches, just wailing his arms. Like, I think you're going to see Waldo be a little bit more composed, being, you know, the experience, the talent level, everything else. But yeah, Robellis is going to show more respect. He's not going to go in there, chin up, hands off to the side. If he does, he's a madman. He does still have the length, though, the reach, the length, everything in that aspect. So, you know, he could pop stuff off out into space before Waldo is really closing the distance. You know, he is 35, but I like the confidence level from him. I like the way that he backs guys down and then just picks his shots. I do really enjoy that. Like, we saw that from Rufy this past weekend. It's a lot of fun to watch guys that are tacticians or snipers. I like snipers like that. To be a 6'7" sniper, that's a lot of fun. I'm going with Robellis Despaigne. Next up, oh my God, I'm so excited for this fight, bro. Styles make matchups, and Alex Caceres has a very fun kickboxing style, and Sean Woodson is a boxer, very technical, roll with it type boxer, long, awkward. He's got like, his limbs don't fit on his body, I don't think, Sean Woodson. He used to be a heavyweight, right? He was a massive, massive man as a boxer. Comes to the UFC, loses tons of weight, and is doing pretty good for himself down at
look at that. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy, bro. Is that like loose skin or something on him? Or you're just saying it's a ridiculous transformation?
No, his
his limbs. His limbs. Yeah.
His limbs are absolutely insane.
Yeah, so this is going to be a wild one where you're going to see Sean Woodson. Look at that length. Yeah, Sean Woodson's going to be, and that's just perfect form too off the jab. That's how you use your length to your advantage.
These guys looks unreal.
Yeah. I think you're going to see basically him and Alex Caceres, Bruce Leroy, right? The two of them are going to be. It's going to be Woodson's arms are flying out there, and then Caceres' legs are going to be like the same. You know, they're both going to be touching each other with those. It's going to be a good one, though. I'm having a really hard time deciding here because Alex Caceres is confusing and creative, and he's a puzzle that you have to figure out as a striker against him. And Sean Woodson is also creative and confusing, but in a different way, in more of a counter-striking way. I think this one's going to go to decision. I think this one's going to go the distance just because of how smart and technically defensive both of these men are. But I think I'm going to have to go with Sean Woodson here his boxing is just so crisp, bro. Like, it's going to be, there's going to be situations when like Alex Caceres is closing the distance with a kick. Sean Woodson maybe sidesteps it, pop, gets back out, throwing stuff off from distance. It's going to be a tough fight for Alex Caceres. It's going to be a tough fight for both men. Really stylistically interesting, like I said. I'm just having a hard time deciding on who it's going to be. But I think it's going to be Sean Woodson, just due to the boxing ability more than anything. He's so good with distance control, distance management. And when Alex Caceres is in charge of the distance, that's where he really thrives. If he can get in, touch you, get back out, he'll do that. And I don't think Sean Woodson's going to let that happen. His footwork is incredible. He's going to be sidestepping a lot, moving around a lot of things, and then he does a lot of weird. I'm excited for this one. I think Sean Woodson's going to get the W. I can ramble about it all day. I'm not totally solid on it. I think it's a lot closer than the odds would have you believe, but I'm going with Sean Woodson. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm going with Sean Woodson. I think it definitely is closer. I don't know. I think that reach is something else. 6'2", 8-inch reach, 6-inch reach advantage, 5.5 or something like that, 4.5 over Alex Caceres, who has a long reach to begin with. I think it's something that Caceres is not going to be ready for because he's just so used to being a longer guy. To have a reach that is 4 inches above yours, it totally throws off your entire game plan, whereas everything's kind of par for the course for Woodson. He knows how to handle guys with strong leg kicks, and Caceres is a guy who he kicks low sometimes, but he does more spinning attacks, more like jiu-jitsu. Bruce Leroy for a reason is his nickname. So I think Sean Woodson would have to contend with like head strikes and body strikes than more like low calf kicks. And as a boxing style, he does throw a couple kicks in there. He does manage distance well, even though he can freaking cover the entire cage by himself with just his arms. I like Sean Woodson's boxing to just be a little bit more intelligent in there. I expect him to make far fewer mistakes than Alex Caceres can open himself up for. So, I think Sean Woodson's the guy to get it done. I could see it happening by decision. I think that's probably the most probable, being that he is, a majority decision fighter and wins on, touching up the other guy. So even though Alex Caceres, I think he'll probably touch the fewest out of his recent opponents. At 31 years old, Caceres is 4 years his senior. Spent a long time in the game, but I think Caceres, you need speed to get away from Sean Woodson. He's deadly accurate. It can hit you from far away. So he really puts, the name the sniper in his nickname of the sniper. I think it's duly named for his accuracy and just how long he can hit you from. And I think Caceres is not good enough on the ground to be able to get Woodson there and wrap him up and finish him. I also don't think he's going to have a strong enough grappling offense to hold Woodson up against the cage. I think you're going to see Woodson. He's very crafty up against the cage, spinning out of the way, using leverage of those long limbs. So I think Woodson gets this one done.
Right there with you. Very frustrating. Also, just want to mention that. I bet against Sean Woodson in the past on Charles Jourdain, and that was one of the most frustrating fights I've ever watched as a fan. Next up, we got Diego Ferreira versus Mateusz Rębecki. And I'm going with Mateusz here, not just because his picture on Tapology reminds me of, like, Craig Jones, but also because, like, this is a guy who's been slowly coming into his own in the UFC. And 5-0 over his last 5, unbeaten in the UFC so far. Started out with a decision win over Nick Fiore. Like Ruziboev, overhand left victory, and then submission over Roosevelt Roberts, who that's a name I haven't heard in a while. Anyways, I think it's going to get done. I think he's going to get it done over Diego Ferreira, a man who isn't super active, takes about a year off in between fights. And there's some names on there too that, like, it really, that's how you date yourself when you look at somebody's record and you go, oh, Diego 3 fights ago fought Gregor Gillespie. Where the fuck has that guy been? You remember Gregor Gillespie? He was like Family Dollar Conor McGregor. Yeah. That guy was cool, and then he just disappeared. He was like ranked number 3 when Tony Ferguson was at his heyday. So, and then he lost to Kevin Lee and left. Moment of appreciation, moment of silence for Gregor Gillespie.
No, he lost to Kevin Lee, beat Diego Ferreira and left.
Gotcha, yeah. So that was his last W. Gregor Gillespie was sick, great wrestler and everything. I hope the guy comes back, but I think he's like a professional fisherman now. Weird career change. Anyways, I like Mateusz Rębecki to get it done this week. I think at this point, 39-year-old Diego Ferreira, who isn't super active, isn't really fighting the best competition. Sure, yeah, you show that. Knockout win over Michael Johnson in his last fight. Michael Johnson is known for losing to people that he should beat and beating people that go on to do incredible things in the future. So I think it's actually a bad sign for Diego Ferreira that he lost to that he beat Michael Johnson. I feel like that's like almost career cancer in a way. I'm going to go with Mateusz, younger, hungrier, developing with every fight that he's been in, slowly rising up in the lightweight division. And he's showing now at this point that he can get it done in a number of ways. You have, short, talented, skilled, experienced Diego Ferreira, 39 years old. The chin's not the same, doesn't move with the same speed. Never really had extreme power in his hands to begin with, anything to speak of that would carry him through his older age. So I'm going to go with Mateusz Rębecki to get it done any way he chooses, honestly, against a 39-year-old Ferreira. What do you think, Tom? Sam?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I think you said everything that I was going to say.
Okay. No, fair.
39 years old versus 31 years old. Rębecki is, on a win streak here. He's versatile. He's shown he's able to get it done. I think Diego Ferreira is obviously past his prime here, and I think we're unfortunately going to see that. And it's a potential big mismatch here. I mean, what are the odds sitting at? Only minus 265. Rębecki's a solid contender.
Yeah,
he really is. He hasn't beaten a lot of top level competition yet, but I mean, he's 19-1, 31 years old, entering his prime. He's a stocky guy, is solid everywhere, maybe not great anywhere necessarily, but I think he's got more than enough to get it done over Diego Ferreira at this point in Ferreira's career.
Yeah, I think so too. Next up, Alonzo Menifield versus Carlos Ulberg. You want to kick us off on this one?
Yeah, no, I did you see the little thumbs up?
Oh yeah. What are we getting?
What?
Comments, subscribes. Is that what the reminder is for, or is that somebody actually liking it right now in real time?
No, I don't know. I think it's me.
Oh, that's cool. I like it.
Alonzo Menifield, Carlos Ulberg. I went back and forth on this one. Carlos Ulberg is a guy who is on a 5-fight win streak in the UFC. Tefon Shukri, Nego Mariano, Ihor Porteria, and Da Un Jung getting a submission over him. I think that's huge for Carlos Ulberg to get a submission over Da Un Jung. You have Alonzo Menifield, who he is at least on the surface on a 4-fight win streak. Crucifix Askar Maskahara, who was a fraud to begin with. And then you have a win over Misha Serkinov, who is definitely, not top level competition. And Carlos Ulberg, I think, would have no problem cleaning up Misha Serkinov. Decision, majority decision, draw to Jimmy Crute. And then you have the submission win over Jimmy Crute shortly thereafter, and then a decision win over Dustin Jacoby, which was largely a kickboxing fight back and forth. I think Carlos Ulberg, if we get the same Alonzo Menifield that showed up for the Dustin Jacoby fight, I think you're going to see Carlos Ulberg land a lot more powerful shots than Dustin Jacoby did. Dustin Jacoby is not necessarily known as a knockout fighter. He wins a lot of decisions. He's a former kickboxer. I think Carlos Ulberg is a guy who's going to go out there and actually look to finish, and he can't finish via submission or knockout. And I'm not necessarily saying we are going to see him knock out Alonzo Menifield, but I just think Menifield has a lot of aggression when he fights. He throws a lot of power, and I think he can't sustain that for a super long time. I think he also is not necessarily the most intelligent fighter. Like I said, I think he fights very emotionally. When he makes contact, he can do damage, but against a higher echelon, higher caliber degree of opponent, I think he's going to have a real tough time finding that contact. And I think Carlos Ulberg is going to be able to evade that first strike and hit with a counter here, there, and get the dub here. So I don't know if I'm predicting necessarily a knockout because we have seen Alonzo Menifield have some pretty solid durability. Only one knockout loss in the second round, and that came to OSP. Didn't age obviously great, but I think since then he showed a lot better defense and a lot better chin. So I'll take Carlos Ulberg to get this one done. I'm not as confident that it's going to necessarily be a knockout here, but yeah, I'm on Ulberg.
Yeah, I wish MMA math worked. It really doesn't, unfortunately, in a lot of situations. But because there's some stuff on these guys' records that we could match up against each other. Anyways, I think this is going to be a banger. I think this is going to be a sick fight. Who are you ultimately going with Carlos Ulberg?
Yeah,
me too. I like the guy a lot. I mean, not to mention that he looks like a movie star, but an Australian movie star like Chris Hemsworth or somebody like that. I don't know, but he's not that good looking. I don't know. I mean, he's great. I like Carlos Ulberg. A couple of great wins on his resume. Comes out of City Kickboxing, 9-1, and like you said, Alonzo Menifield, tough, doesn't really get put down. I think you're going to see this go the distance, and I think you're going to see ultimately Ulberg coming out on top of most of the exchanges, maybe being a little bit less bloodied, less battered. And yeah, pulling out the W here. More technical guy. So yeah. And then this guy. This fucking guy. Joaquin Buckley. Begging for a main event in his hometown of St. Louis. And they're like, all right, we'll put you on the card. We'll make you the co-main event. Right? He went up at UFC 300 and asked on the microphone at the press conference. And they were like, all right, we'll give you the co-main event, but you're going to fight Nursultan Ruziboev, who's pretty good. He's a guy that we don't really know too much about just yet as UFC fans. But if you look back on his career prior to the UFC, the guy is an absolute killer. And then you look at what he's done in the UFC to some of the name, Bruno Ferreira. To go out there and put out Bruno Ferreira the way that he did is bananas. He also has a sick ground game, Nursultan Ruziboev. And I think that all this spells trouble for Joaquin Buckley. You look at the odds alone, minus 150 for Buckley, plus 120 for Nursultan Ruziboev. His nickname is just Black, by the way, which is kind of nuts. But yeah, Nursultan Black Ruziboev, I think he's going to get it done. I just think he's got such an arsenal. And I was looking for where he's from because I know he's from a foreign country. It says Uzbekistan, but then it says training out of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Oh, he's out of Marquez, so he's training with who's that? Brendan Allen, Pat Sabat. No, I'm sorry, Sean Brady. That's who it is. Sean
Brady and Joe Pfeiffer. Woo!
Pat Sabat. Like you've got, I don't know. I think that Ruziboev is going to go out there and shock a lot of people, and then it's going to be funny because Joaquin Buckley had like a little bit of hype behind him after this 3-fight win streak. He's calling for a title shot, all this crazy stuff. And I don't know if Ruziboev is even ranked. So I think it would be pretty funny if Nursultan went out there, got a W, and then we had to hear Joaquin Buckley cry about it for the next 6 months. I think that would actually be hysterical. I think that's probably the most likely outcome because what's that theory? The most likely outcome is probably
the most probable one.
Yeah, I think in this case, whatever the funniest outcome is when it comes to a Joaquin Buckley fight, that's probably the most probable outcome. So yeah, I think it's going to be Nursultan Ruziboev getting it done over Joaquin Buckley, and then we're going to hear Joaquin Buckley cry. Oh, he did this. It's going to be like something stupid too. Like here's my prediction: is Nursultan's going to get like a submission W, and then Joaquin Buckley, yeah, but he's grabbing my glove. 6'5" versus 5'9", bro. This is going to be bananas, dude. How is he a dog? I feel like that's wow.
How does he have a 76-inch reach?
He fought Caio Barala?
I don't think so.
Oh, okay. I thought that's what that. Yeah, look at that. Caio Barala versus highlights before the. So that must have been like a proposed matchup at some point. Yeah, I'm going with Nursultan. Age 30 from Uzbekistan.
Yeah, no, I don't think he fought Caio Barala.
No, I don't think so either. That
canceled.
Yeah, okay. That little thumbnail that came up said highlights before the fight or something like that. Ruziboev withdrew. Yeah, I don't know, man. And then yeah, I'm going with Ruziboev. What do you think, Joaquin or?
I think I remember that Caio Barala. It was so.
Oh, Caio Barala like went on like a whole social media thing about it afterwards. I think
it was so he could fight Abus Magomedov.
Right.
I think it was like on short notice.
Right, and that was like right after he fought. I think, yeah.
So Ruziboev withdrew.
Wow, that's
Did he get hurt or something? I don't know. Maybe he just didn't want to fight Caio Barala. He was like, shit.
I'm not ready.
Yeah, and then takes on Cedric Dumas.
And that was domination, I'm pretty sure. I mean, Cedric Dumas is not, or Dumas or whatever. He's all right. I don't think he's as good as we both, as everyone said he was going to be coming in here.
But he's solid competition. But either way, yeah, I'm expecting big things
out of
Nursultan Ruziboev. Yeah, I think Nursultan Ruziboev has the every ability to go out there and get this one done. I think Joaquin Buckley is largely a product, and I'll show you here, largely a product of catching things at the right time. I think Vicente Luque, if we go and we look at his career, yeah, he has a win over Rafael dos Anjos, who's obviously very old, and that was a decision where he realistically, if he wants to contend and he wants to, like, you got to think about Joaquin Buckley wants to contend, wants the belt. If freaking Vicente Luque is going to meet him on the same level, like you got to be knocking RDAs out. You got to be finishing RDAs. And the fact that it was a back and forth battle, like I don't think that's good for Vicente Luque. You know, he also has a loss to Jeff Neal and Bilal Muhammad right behind that. So this guy is clearly on the decline. Joaquin Buckley, for that to be his signature win now, to be calling for a title shot is just egregious at the very least. You have a win over Andre Fiallo after losing to Chris Curtis and Nasruddin Imavov, getting fraud checked by these two guys back to back. You come back and get a win against Andre Fiallo, who look at him since not in the UFC anymore. And then Alex Morono, you have a decision win over him, which is solid.
Yeah, Morono's good.
A solid win over Alex Morono and a win over Vicente Luque, whose only win in the last 4 years, relevant win, is a 40-year-old RDA. Like, you're scraping the bottom of the barrel with these opponents here. So I don't really think Joaquin Buckley deserves to be in the position he is, or at least calling for the things that he's calling for. So with that being said, I think he's actually going to get fraud checked by Narlston Ruziboev, because I think Ruziboev kind of has the opposite thing going on. I think Narlston Ruziboev is the guy who is not as high as he could be. And I think Joaquin Buckley is higher than he should be. So with that being said, I think Narlston Ruziboev is the guy who's going to go out there and get it done. He's got a strong grappling game. He's got a strong KO game. He is gigantic. I think he's going to show Joaquin Buckley who's daddy.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And also, don't get me wrong too. I'm not a walking Yoki, however you say his name in particular. I'm not a hater by any means.
I am kind of a little bit.
Yeah, I liked him for a while. I thought that like for a while there he was funny. He gave us some great moments in the past. Obviously, he has a top 10 all-time knockout, the spinning kick, that ninja kick or whatever. So I'm not entirely just looking at shit on Joaquin Buckley. But like you said, he's in the wrong place right now. Like he got way too high up. The win against Vicente Luque, you could tell that Vicente like almost didn't want to be there too. And again, not to like take anything away from anyone's wins, but dude, Vicente gave up quick in that fight. It was a very like it was one of those shots where he fell. Vicente Luque, maybe his chin's done, but yeah, Joaquin Buckley is not or should not be entitled to. The UFC agrees, case in point, because he was actually in a position to fight for a title eventually someday. Or they actually even believed in him as like a true, actual marketable star. He would have been the main event on this card in his hometown of St. Louis, fighting somebody else with a name. Instead, they gave it to Derrick Lewis and Rodrigo Nascimento. Yeah. Like, that's not the Vicente Luque that we know, bro. Like, that Vicente Luque 4 fights ago does not shell up while Joaquin Buckley is landing nothing shots on him.
Well, and none of those shots were landing. They were bouncing off his hands and his arms. And
like, bro,
he just gets right up. Like, it was like, yeah, like.
And then is Joaquin crying, bro? Like, come on, man. You almost. It has to be as obvious to him in the octagon as it is to all of us at home that. But again, it's his whatever. He's not watching this, so I could take away from his achievements. So yeah, fuck him. I don't know. I mean, it wasn't that great, and I think he's in for a rude awakening against Nursultan. I'm rolling with the dog money there. And then in this one, what was Derrick Lewis's last loss?
Most recent loss was Jonathan Almeida.
Right, in a main event for the heavy, of a fight night.
Sergey Speedmack submissioned him.
Right, with the
Sergey Pavlovich knocked him out.
Yeah.
Sergey's. And then knocked out by Tai Tuivasa before he was front checked.
Yeah. And yet the man is still here. I'll tell you when he should have retired, though, is after that flying knee knockout over who was that?
Marcos Rogerio de Lima.
Yeah, that's right. That was bananas. That should have been the moment. Derrick Lewis taking off his shorts, but clearly he thinks he still has some in the tank. I'm not super hot on Rodrigo Nascimento. You have that one up, Dontel Mays right now. You should be finishing Dontel Mays if you want to do anything in the UFC. There's certain guys as a heavyweight that I do believe don't hang in there and are just there, like you said before, lambs to the slaughter. You have to knock those guys out if you want a chance against Derrick Lewis.
Well, you need to be able to knock guys out if you want a chance against Derrick Lewis. If you can't knock guys out, you are a literal lamb to the slaughter because over 15 minutes, he's going to land a shot on you.
Right. At that point, you have to
decision.
Yeah.
No contest. Hooks. Rear naked choke over Dontel Mays, which Dontel Mays turned around and well, he fought him to decision, beat him again, but
yeah.
His last finish outside of Dontel Mays was Contender Series. Like, this guy is not a finisher.
No UFC finishes. And so now, like, what is the game plan for a guy like Rodrigo Nascimento to hope that Derrick Lewis tires out before he does? Because sure, that could happen. And we've seen nights where Derrick Lewis like doesn't want to be there. Looks like he's like the fight against Tai Tuivasa, for example. It almost looked like Derrick Lewis did not want to be in the octagon that night. And he has moments like that. As you could see, 4-1 over his last 5. The one fight that he wins is bananas. Is he going to have a moment like that over Rodrigo, or is Rodrigo going to be more – I don't know. It's tough to say. Is he just going to outlast Derrick Lewis mentally and cardio, stamina, physically-wise? Or is Derrick Lewis going to land that one shot that puts him out? It's a tough choice to make as a bettor, as doing this show and everything. But I think I'm gonna have to go with Derrick Lewis. I just don't think that Rodrigo Nascimento is up to snuff. It just depends on what type of night that Derrick Lewis has. But I would like to see Derrick Lewis go out with a W. I don't want to see him go out the Matt Brown way. Both those guys tied for the knockout record in the UFC, I believe. I'd like to see the other knockout champion, whatever that, the knockout title holder. I'd rather see him go out in big fashion, get it done in a main event, beat Rodrigo Nascimento, and then hang him up in front of St. Louis. That would be sick. The only way it could have been cooler is if he did it in front of his hometown of, is he Houston or Dallas? I think he's a Houston fella. The only way that it would be cooler is if he did it in front of Houston, but I would like to see Derrick Lewis get a big win and retire, so I'm going to go with Derrick Lewis this week. What do you think?
Yeah, Derrick Lewis is a Houston guy. And I think he had his opportunity to get it done in Houston and Dallas and flopped both of them. But with that being said, I think this is the perfect fight for Derrick Lewis to get a win. This is the type of fight that I would be I have a lot of confidence in A, having success in, but B, a lot of confidence in Derrick Lewis going out there and being a Derrick Lewis that we know and love and having confidence and not kind of flopping. The reason for that is because he's going up against a guy that is pretty much nothing to worry about coming back. We went through Nascimento's record here. He's just not a finisher inside the UFC. Absolutely not as of late. To get Derrick Lewis minus 165, to get him by knockout is probably like 155, honestly. But like, you're probably not getting too much. But I think this is a perfect fight where Derrick Lewis, over 3 rounds, 15 minutes, he's going to land a punch, and that punch is going to do meaningful damage to a guy like Rodrigo Nascimento. I know that he is not necessarily, he's 11-1, so he hasn't lost a lot, but Dontel Mays, Ayer Latifi, Tanner Boser is decent, split decision. Alan Baldo, Chris Daukaus, he lost via hooks in the first round. The guy like Chris Daukaus is knocking you out with hooks. I have some real questions about, how your chin is going to handle a Derrick Lewis hook or Derrick Lewis overhand or really anything coming back from Derrick Lewis. So because he's shown an inability to take power shots from big power hitters in the past, and Derrick Lewis still has power and doesn't have anything to be afraid of, is headlining, main eventing, I think this is a perfect opportunity and a perfect chance to bet on Derrick Lewis at minus 165. Pretty solid odds. I feel good about this. The people on Tapology feel really good about this. Let's go with the Black Beast here.
Yeah, so we got the Black Beast in the main event and just black in the co-main. Derrick Lewis by KO TKO on FanDuel, minus 135.
Take it.
I am. You don't got to tell me, brother. I'm right there with you.
Put a couple units on there for me.
Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, because sports betting is not legal everywhere just yet, and we are not criminals. But, yeah, dude, I love this card. I'm super pumped for it. I think there's going to be a couple of moments on here that, like, there are on every fight night. Let's be honest. Like, every fight night has one or two, like, viral moments that I think that some people are like, oh, that's cool on ESPN. As soon as we get to the point where, like, the talent level across the board is where it's going, And all these fight nights are just like up and coming contenders that have the skill level to be there, that have the power, the submission game. They're exciting. As soon as you have that, the UFC is going to become an every Saturday thing in the way that the NFL is. It's only a matter of time. Fight night cards like this make me kind of confident of that, especially as it's blowing up as a sport just in general. So I'm excited about this one. I think it's going to be a great opportunity to potentially make some money if you bet responsibly. And let us know what you think of our picks too, right? Yeah, definitely.
With that being said,
yes. I almost forgot about this part. All right, so I'm over here looking to wrap things up. Veronica Hardy is a prelim notable. Jake Hadley over Charles Johnson. That's the one I'm going with. Terrence McKinney over Esteban Ribovic. Vyacheslav Borshev over Chase Hooper. And then onto the main card, I have Robelis Despaigne over Waldo Cortes-Acosta, probably finishing that one early. Sean Woodson over Alex Caceres. Mateusz Rębecki over Diego Ferreira. Carlos Ulberg over Alonzo Menifield. Nursultan Ruziboev over Joaquin Buckley. And Derrick Lewis over Rodrigo Nascimento.
I am going Jake Hadley over Charles Johnson. I'm going Tisha Torres over Tabitha Ritchie. Terrence McKinney over Esteban Ruziboev. I'm going to be wild and go with Chase Hooper over Slavakos on the main card. Despaigne over Cortez. Also think that's going to happen via finish and potentially via finish early. Woodson over Caceres. Rębecki over Ferreira. Ulberg over Menifield. Ruziboev over Buckley. And Lewis over Rodrigo Nascimento by finish.
If you parlay all of our 6 main card legs, it is a total of plus 1310. So I don't want to get too into that, but if you understand what that means and you like our picks for this main card, jump in. Let us know. Let us see a slip. Other than that, please like, comment, and subscribe. That definitely helps us out quite a bit. We really appreciate it. It's the way that I get to keep my phone on. No, I'm just kidding. This doesn't pay for any bills. But yeah, like, comment, subscribe. It definitely helps us out. We're trying to grow the channel a little bit, and we really appreciate the support. Also, check us out on Spotify. The audio and the video is linked up over there. Check us out there. You can listen in the car, whatever, on your run. I would, but I don't like to listen to myself talk. So you let us know what you think of those picks. And then we'll let you know what we thought of them come next week after we review this in preparation for – we got a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, dude. A lot of
UFC events.
Yeah, we got that Abu Dhabi card coming. Bro, I can talk to you about this afterwards. We don't want the runtime to be forever. But, brother, the main event for that Abu Dhabi card is fun. And it's one that I've been looking forward to for a long time.
Which one is it right here?
Yeah.
Whitaker versus Chimaev?
No, I'm pretty sure that's a 3-round fight, and they just announced that Corey Sandhagen versus Umar Nurmagomedov is going to be the main event.
Oh my god!
I'm almost positive.
Hell yeah!
Yeah, that'll be a cool 5-round fight. But I could check it out now, and then we could just, because I don't want to misinform these kind people that stick with us until minute 65 of the episode. Sandhagen versus Nurmagomedov. Oh, wow. That's another card in August for Abu Dhabi. August 3rd. Wow. So they're going there twice this summer. So another fight night. No pay-per-view, it looks like, this summer in Abu Dhabi. But 2 fight nights. One headlined by Chimaev and Whitaker, and another with Corey Sandhagen and Umar Nurmagomedov. That's going to be wild.
The UAE literally said, yo, UFC, you need to come in some heat. Get that BS out of here. We want the fire. We want the good matchups, and we know what the good matchups are. You can't fool us. That's pretty nice.
Regional guys too. Regional guys, exciting guys, big names. Former champ, interim champ. I believe he lost the interim champ fight to TJ Dillashaw, Corey Sandhagen.
Look at this. We got Barboza and Murphy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. They can't all be winners, but I think that's sneaky good.
Yeah, that's one that they slot in there. I haven't looked at the rest of the card either. There might be someone because, I'll tell you what, when I looked at this, it said Derrick Lewis, another Derrick Lewis fight night. versus Rodrigo Nascimento. Right. How good is that going to be? And then you actually look at the card and you go, wow.
Well, yeah, and then you got Memorial Day weekend, and then you have Makhachev Poirier.
Yeah.
And you have Cannonier Imavov. You have a fight night coming here.
Going where? Where's that?
This is the weekend after.
Is that
pretty solid?
That's another Vegas one?
I got the Apex, yeah. June 15th. Oh, yeah.
Andrei Arlovsky.
Andre Muniz, Ikram Alexkarov, Jimmy Flick, Nate Maness.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll mess with the order a little bit, but yeah, that is Miles
Almeida
versus Douglas Silva de Andrade. That's going to be a good card.
Brady Heistand, a tough guy.
Wow, versus Garrett Armfield. So the two of them are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And Garrett Armfield is actually, which is wild. I don't think he was supposed to do it, but they sent him and a couple of UFC fighters, like a lot of them probably, the new gloves. And Garrett Armfield, of all people, is the one to jump on social media and be like, do you notice the difference? It's like, I don't think that's the reveal the UFC was looking for. They didn't want Garrett Armfield.
Yeah, he's not the one supposed to lead the chat. Well, maybe because he's got a no following, they could test the reception before it's just blasted by like a bigger name.
I don't even think he has that big of a following. I just follow him because
that's what I'm saying. Like, what a good way to like test drive something. But after that, Whitaker, Chimaev, and after that, McGregor, Chandler. So one weekend off, which is Memorial Day. Other than that, strictly bangers.
Yeah, we're gonna be busy. We're definitely gonna be busy. KFC Center, the Cannonier versus Imavov fight at the KFC Uni Center. I'm sorry, I was just reading that because I was like, where the hell is the KFC Center? Louisville,
Yum Center. Makes sense.
Oh, Yum with an exclamation mark. Yeah, that's cool. All right, but yeah, like you were saying.
Thanks for joining us. Can't wait for these fights, and see you next week.
Adios.